In this video, I'm gonna show you how to make some awesome fried chicken. Stick around. Okay guys, welcome back to Campo Kitchen. Thank you for joining me. Today we're gonna make some awesome fried chicken. Now let's go over some of the basic things here. First step is, what kind of chicken do you use? Well, I like the smaller chickens. I like chickens that are 2.5 to 3.5 pounds. The reason for that is because the meat to crust ratio is really perfect. If you have those large birds that are almost like turkeys, they're gonna get really dark and crispy on the outside, and they're gonna be raw in the center. So oftentimes you'll have to finish them in the oven, and they're just not as great. So I like the smaller chickens, local, organic, farm-raised chickens if you can get them. Those are the best ones. Okay, so let's cut this chicken up. You can cut it into 8 pieces or 10 pieces. First step, you're gonna cut out the back of the chicken. So I use kitchen shears, I slice up and down the spine, and I remove it just like so. Now you have this chicken that's wide open, and you're gonna break it down into smaller cuts. I remove the thigh, just like so. And then after I remove the thigh, I'm gonna cut right down the middle, and I'm gonna use the tip of my knife to slice through that hard cartilage, and I'm gonna cut the breast right down the middle. Now I separate the leg from the thigh, and I split the breast right in half. Some people remove the wing right at the joint, but I decided to leave that in. Also, if the cartilage is hard to cut through, use your kitchen shears. Next, what we're gonna do, we're gonna brine our chicken. I don't know why people are afraid of brining. You go on the internet, you don't see any of these recipes have brine chicken in them. It's so important, and it seasons the chicken uniformly, and it makes them really juicy. Now, brining is very simple. So for this recipe, what I did was 1 gallon of water. I did about 5 ounces of salt, and I did about 1/4 cup to almost 1/2 cup of honey. I sliced up a few lemons. I threw some herbs in there like rosemary and parsley. I threw some spices in there like black peppercorn. I threw some bay leaf in there, and it turned out great. Okay, so once you soak your chicken in the brine for about 12 hours, you wanna take it out of the brine and just give it a quick rinse to get all that excess salty brine off, and you let them sit in your refrigerator for about an hour. Okay, now that they're sitting in your refrigerator for an hour, it's time to make the dredge. The dredge is very simple. It's basically flour with some seasonings. Now the old standby seasonings, it's gonna be your salt, your pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, your paprika. You can throw some chili in there, maybe some cayenne. I threw a little bit of Aleppo chili in mine. You can actually add crazy stuff too if you wanna do like mustard seeds or cardamom or some crazy curry. You could do some crazy stuff like that, but I just like to keep it simple, especially for this fried chicken recipe. Now that you have your dredge ready, you're gonna wanna soak your chicken in buttermilk in between dredges. So what this does is make a really wonderful crust, and it also gives you that tanginess of that buttermilk. I like buttermilk way better than milk or cream for this particular recipe because that buttermilk has a good tanginess and good acid, and it really adds a depth of flavor to your fried chicken, and it makes it taste so wonderful. The dredging process is really important. So first, you have your chicken out of the brine, you put it in the flour, and you coat it really, really well with that first layer of dredge, okay? So make sure that it's in all the nooks and crannies, and then you pat it in between 2 hands to make sure all the excess falls off, right? Just like so. And then you're gonna soak it in buttermilk. So just completely cover it in buttermilk. It doesn't have to spend a long amount of time in the buttermilk, just enough to cover. And then it's going out of the buttermilk, right back into the flour, and you're doing the exact same process. Cover all the nooks and crannies, make sure it's completely covered, and then just pat it in between 2 hands to make sure all the excess is off. Okay, lastly, let's talk about frying. What are you gonna fry this chicken in? Well, I like to use peanut oil. I know a lot of people say they have allergies. I'm sure they do. I've never met anybody with a peanut allergy. If you do, definitely don't use peanut oil. That's 100% fact, okay? Use a different oil, use a canola oil. You want some sort of oil that has a high flash point, which means it can get really hot without smoking or denaturing, changing in flavor. So peanut oil can get really hot, and it tastes great when it's hot, so it's perfect for frying. So I'm gonna use peanut oil. Now, let's talk about frying these bad boys up. Now, to fry these babies up, you're gonna get your oil to about 300 to 325. That's the sweet spot, okay? So that's gonna give you that golden brown crust, and it's also gonna cook the chicken through. If you go hotter than that, you're gonna get a golden brown crust, but your chicken might be a little raw. And if you go colder than that, well, then it doesn't turn out great. Your breading kind of falls out, your chicken kind of gets mushy and greasy. Okay, so 300 to 325 is your sweet spot. You're gonna fry it for about 8 to 10 minutes, You know, you want, once it gets golden brown and if your oil is the proper temperature, usually it's done, but use a thermometer to double check that it's at least 155 to 160, okay? So let's check it out here. There's a thigh. I'm gonna cut right into that beautiful thigh after it's rested for about 10 minutes. And my goodness, is this baby delicious and juicy. The brine makes such a big difference. It keeps it so juicy. If you don't have that brine, it's not as juicy, and that crust is really, really nice. This turned out excellent. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button and make sure you subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos coming next week.